on top of this shit. You feel me? I'm never gonna shut up until the nigga kill me. And I feel like I'm headed to the penitentiary. Cause this is the part where we ride on our enemies. I know these niggas in the game finna feel me. I'm never gonna shut up until the nigga kill me. And I feel like I'm headed to the penitentiary. Cause this is the part where we ride on our enemies. Okay. So we're back with another banger. I know it's been a while, but I had to redo my room a little bit, and then taking care of the kids is the whole thing. And I don't always get the chance to make podcasts every day, but there's certain days out of like the month or whatever that I'm able to start recording, and then I record one show that comes out right away, and then I record another show the same night, and then I keep recording as many shows as I can so that they are um, pre-recorded and they can come out every day at a certain time, and then I don't have to worry about if I want to take a week off or whatever. So, first we're going to start with this. No, I got to get my Bible, girl. Great are the works of the Lord. They are pondered by all who delight in them. Glorious and majestic are his deeds, and his righteousness endures forever. He has caused his wonders to be remembered. The Lord is gracious and compassionate. He provides food for those who fear him. He remembers his covenant forever. He has shown people his power of his works, giving them the lands of our nation. The work of his hands are faithful, and just as his precepts are trustworthy. They are established forever and ever, in act in faithfulness and uprightness. He provided redemption for his people. He ordained his covenant forever. Holy and awesome is his name. Now, usually, sometimes the Bible verses I pick kind of have to go with what I'm talking about, but that didn't. I just like that verse, so I wanted to read that. What we're gonna be talking about today is, and it's funny because I know I said I wasn't gonna bring this up again, and then again I'm bringing it up. Why? Because there was another trans shooting, and it happened a little while ago now. I just haven't been able to report on it. But the last trans shooting was in Canada, and I did a whole thing on that where I looked up how many trans shootings there have been. And at the time, I believe they said there was 5 mass shootings by transgender people. Well, now there's 7. So they just kind of keep getting up there, and nobody wants to talk about this. And it's getting kind of annoying, and it's pissing me off. Okay? Because these people obviously have something wrong with them. And in this instance, this wasn't like some youngin' kid that did it. This was a grown ass man. I mean, you could tell immediately he was a man. There was no features about him that were girly or anything like that. Um, he decided to go to a hockey game that his family was going to, and then he decided to shoot it the fuck up. Well, you know what? This has got to stop because trans, I'm sorry, is a mental illness. You want to be whatever you want to be, that's cool. Do what you got to do. But if you're not fully trying to pass as a woman, something's wrong. Now, I don't have a problem with all trans people because I follow some trans people on my page and they are fully aware that they're men, and but they are fully passable as women. They, look like women. They don't have 5 o'clock shadows. They don't have, all this stuff. There's one that I follow. He's a guy, and he's like, "Yeah, I know I'm a guy, whatever." He's like, "I'm going into, um, one of those muscle competitions or whatever." But he was like, "I did not sign up for the girls one. I signed up for the guys one because that's what you're supposed to fucking do." And if my daughter told me that there was a trans boy playing on the team, I would tell her to sit it out. Or if there was a boy on the opposite team, I would tell her to sit it out and you take the loss, stand up for what you believe in. So I was like, this dude's cool. I like him. Um, he can pass for a female somewhat. He just looks a little less like a female because of all the muscles he has. Um, I mean, he's still, I mean, I wouldn't call him ugly or unattractive or anything like that. He doesn't have, he went through all this stuff you're supposed to go through when you're transitioning. Uh, he, you know, he has his wigs and he got his face done so he didn't have such manly features. He went through the whole thing. If I showed you him, you would say okay, but you would know for sure that he was a man because he does have manly features. When he gets dressed up and wears makeup and stuff, it's like okay, but if somebody calls him a sir, doesn't lose his mind and whatever, like the Lily Tinos of the world, and um, which, speaking of that, real quick, I'm going to get off the subject. Lily Tina had did a video with a goddamn puppet on his arm trying to talk to, I guess, children about being trans. This guy, actually, you know what? I want to see if I can find it. Here we go. I found it.
Trans kids don't exist. Whoa, that is not true. Almost 2% of all kids are trans. Yeah, and they're all confused. How could that many kids be confused? Because they're being indoctrinated in our schools, teaching that a boy can become a girl. You mean they're teaching kids that trans people exist? Exactly. Just learning about trans people doesn't make you trans, though. It's not like it's a virus you can catch from knowledge. But kids' minds are easily influenced. That's actually true, which is why it's important to show kids from an early age that being trans is normal and healthy. Oh, so you're saying it's okay to operate on kindergartners? Whoa, no one's saying that. Yes, they are. I read about it on the internet. No, gender affirming care for kids starts and ends with hormones. No surgery. Hormones that permanently change their bodies. Do you know what most older trans people would do to go back in time and have started hormones when they were younger? Yeah, well, they're confused too. You can't just call someone confused because you don't relate to their life experience.
That's what he gets, a face slap. Why? Because you're trying to say that if a little kid likes a Barbie, that means he can be trans. Or if a little girl likes to play with boy trucks, that it's possible she's trans and that they should learn about this at a very young age. And it's absolutely not appropriate at all whatsoever. And he has these things where he says this stuff and he targets children. He goes to Disneyland and does absurd things there, taking pictures in the bathroom, and there's little girls walking by. And this guy does not pass for trans at all whatsoever. You can tell 100% that he is a man, and he looks like a man. Here, I'll show you right there. And and I'll show you a video of when he's called sir. Listen.
Excuse me. Yes, sir. Yeah, sir. What kind of cookies do you have? Thank you. It makes me not want a cookie now. I don't think I want to give this place any more money. It's not okay, but it's also like I'm trying to take these things in stride a little bit more lately. I'm not happy about it. I don't like getting misgendered. It really stinks. If the person hadn't corrected themselves, I would have corrected them, but they did immediately. Sometimes people will say like, well, voice train Lily. How can you expect someone to gender you correctly in this situation? The expectation is not for a server to read your mind. The expectation is that a server understands that they don't know your pronouns. They don't know anybody's pronouns, even if they look a certain way. If there's someone who came out as trans the day before, they haven't started hormones, they haven't, voice trained, they don't have new clothes, like they're presenting entirely as male. That person's pronouns are still she, her. You got to account for that situation because you never know who you're going to have as your guest. Gender neutral terms are very important in customer service. A lot of.
I'm not even going to play that whole thing because I want to get into the shooting. But this is the kind of shit that I'm talking about. This is the psycho shit I'm talking about. He sounds like a dude. He looks like a dude. And the waiter is just trying to be polite. Sir, ma'am, that's what you would say. I would say that as well. Now, if I was a server and he said something to me about calling him a sir, I would be like, look, I'm sorry that you have a problem with me calling you sir. I was being polite because I was brought up with manners, and you do not look like a female to me or sound like a female to me. So I thought it would be more offensive if I called you ma'am and you were not a man. So you can't expect me to just guess that you're trans or whatever. You cannot hold that against me. I'm not a bad person. I'm not transphobic and sitting here degrading you. I called you sir. That is it. If you do not like that, then you're more than welcome to go somewhere else. Point blank, period. That is how I would handle the situation. And if my manager fired me over it, then I'd be fired. But that's that. And then, I want to play you one more thing.
Can trans women get pregnant? No, sadly not, because we don't have a uterus. But in the future, it might be possible. You see, there's this new thing called a uterus transplant, where they take a uterus from a donor and put it into the body of someone who is unable to give birth themselves. Once the uterus is in, they pop a baby in, and 9 months later, the baby is delivered via C-section. Uterus transplants have only been performed on cisgender women so far, but there is talk among scientists that it might be possible for trans women in the future. But how is that possible? Trans women don't even have the parts, right? Well, remember when I told you that the baby comes via C-section exclusively, even for cis women? That avoids a whole lot of complexity and risk straight out the gate. The biggest obstacles that seem to be in the way are the blood vessels that line the uterus and support the baby while it grows. Now, we have at least a few decades of scientific advancement before this kind of thing is even possible.
Cutting it off right there because that's absolutely insane. That is never going to happen. Okay? I'm looking. I have to charge my phone a little bit so I can show you the video. But that is not going to happen. Why? Because guys' bodies were not made to have a uterus. Okay? They just weren't. And you would have to literally change an entire guy's insides to somehow put a uterus, even if it was possible to put a uterus in him, I don't think they would ever have successful babies, or there would be some kind of birth defect from these babies. This is never going to happen. They are not going. If you can't even get your fucking period as a trans person, how the fuck are you gonna have a baby? Because first, you would have to have a baby, or you would have to have a uterus, cervix, and ovary. It's more than just placing a uterus inside a man. And that's all he said, is that they could place a uterus. You need ovaries to release eggs into your cervix and whatever to then have sex, and then the guy nuts in you, and whatever eggs that were released from the girl's ovaries, the sperm would attack, and then it would form something, a zygote, and then it would be implanted in the uterus, and that's how it would go. Now, I might not be scientifically correct on that, but that's pretty much the gist of it. So he's just talking about, oh, they're going to implant a uterus and you'll be able to have a kid. It's not just about a uterus. You need ovaries, you need a uterus, and you need a cervix. You do not have that. The fuck are you talking about? So anyway, trying to get in the mind of mental, crazy, fucking psycho, uh, trans people. I have a couple videos, but I want to read some stuff for you guys about this incident. And what's funny to me is that people want to scream about ICE and all this and stuff like that. And more trans people have killed more people than ICE has killed more people. ICE has killed 2 people, and they were justified each time. Alex Peretti, that one was a little dicey, but they were still justified because he was carrying a concealed weapon, and he did not announce to law enforcement that he had a concealed weapon. Plus, the day before, he had a serious altercation with a ice car and kicked out their taillight, which he should have been arrested then. That's the thing I don't agree with ICE on. They should have arrested him for doing that, destroying property of law enforcement. And if that would have happened, he wouldn't have been out on the street and he wouldn't have died. But then he had a gun on him and got into this altercation fight going on, pulls the gun out, a shot fired, whether it was a mistake or not, because I heard those guns are not 100% good guns. They have a hair trigger, and maybe he didn't mean to shoot the gun, whatever, but it doesn't matter. You shot the gun while officers were on you, and they all backed away, and you pulled the gun out, they backed away, you shot the gun off, and then they shot you. So that's two, as far as I know. And trans people have killed way more people than ICE. So maybe you should start protesting for that. Not to mention the one that everybody keeps talking about, claiming ICE killed a school teacher, which I'm here to tell you that that is not true. A school teacher was driving, minding her own business, and ICE was chasing down an illegal that was a criminal, not just for breaking into the country, but he was an actual criminal, and he sped off trying to get away from ICE, and he smashed into this young black teacher's car and he killed her. And people have been going around saying that ICE killed her, which is 100% not true. She was killed by the illegal. As a matter of fact, oh, okay, I'm gonna write that story down because I am going to tell you that whole story as well. And while I'm doing that story, because I'll do that one, and I will find the other illegals that have killed people driving on the road in trucks and everything else. Let me break that down. Okay, so let's get into this story right here. I only have a couple things to read on it, so it won't take me that long. I just want to see what I'm going to start with. All right, I'll just start with this one. A deadly shooting during a youth hockey game in Rhode Island last week has claimed a third victim, a grandfather whose granddaughter and grandson were also killed in the attack, authorities said. Gerald Dogan, who had been in critical condition, has died from his injuries. Pawtucket police said Wednesday. Pawtucket Mayor Donald Rabin said he was heartbroken that another person has died because of the shooting. Our thoughts and prayers remain with the families, with the victims' families and friends, and all those impacted by this tragic act of violence. Dogan's daughter, Rhonda Dogan, and grandson, Adrian Dogan, were also killed in the shooting. Police identified the shooter as Robert Dogan, 56, who died from apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Dogan also went by the names Roberta Esposito and Roberta Dorgano. Authorities said Robert Dogan's ex-wife Rhonda Dogan and adult son was Aiden Dogan. Officials have said the shooter was specifically targeting family members. Rhonda Dogan's mother, Linda Dogan, and a family friend, Thomas Russo, were wounded. Later, officers had credited several people who intervened and quickly stopped the attack. At the last At least the last bystanders were able to contain the shooter in the middle of the stand as the crowd fled and ran around. So we have that one. Okay. A deadly shooting during a youth hockey game in Rhode Island last week has claimed the third victim, a grandfather whose daughter and grandson were also killed in the attack. Gerald Dogan, who had been in critical condition, has died from his injuries, Pawtucket police said Wednesday. Pawtucket Mayor Donald Rabin, I think it said he was heartbroken and that another person has died because of the shooting. Our thoughts and prayers remain with the victims' families, friends, and all those impacted by this tragic act of violence, he said in his statement. Dogan's daughter, Rhonda Dogan, and grandson, Aiden Dogan, were also killed in the shooting. Police identified the shooter as okay, we got that part. So this motherfucker killed basically his whole family, except for I believe his daughter, because she wasn't there. Um, or wait, hold on. Dogan's daughter, Rhonda Dogan, grandson. Was there one more daughter? Or was it another? Was it the wife? Yeah, I think it might have been the wife that says something. And then police identified the shooter. Authorities said Robert Dogan's ex-wife and adult son was Aiden. Okay, so he did shoot his wife. Officials said the shooter was specifically targeting family members. Rhonda Dogan's mom, Linda Dogan, a family friend, Thomas Russo, were wounded. Um, if it wasn't for bystanders, more people probably would have died. And this one kid who was a hockey player, basically most of his family was killed by this guy because he didn't only stop at his family. He went and killed a bunch of other people too, as well. I think I have the video of this girl speaking. I don't. I think he had two wives at one point, and then she wasn't there, or it was a sister that wasn't there. I'm gonna when I get to my videos on it, I will play it for you, just because I can't remember. But this guy was a sick fucking twist. And in the video that I have about it, uh, with whoever she is to him. I hope I haven't anyway, but she said he had mental problems forever and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you get mental problems when you start taking hormones and all this shit you're not supposed to put in your body. Some people who transition are not already mentally fucked up. Yeah, it is a mental issue when you're talking about being trans. And I'm sorry, it is. You feel like you were born in a different body. That is a mental illness. But it's how you go about that, okay? I don't care what you want to do in your home. Just don't force your shit on me. If I by accident call you a dude, sorry. But what I'm going to show you in these couple of videos is going to be exactly what I mean. People back in the day when they were trans, they were trying to be passable so that you didn't know they were trans unless you had a talk with them and they were dating you and then they told you like, yo, I'm trans. Now, these motherfuckers just they have 5 o'clock shadows. They they they're just they I feel like they're not getting what they want out of life being men. So they go, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to be a woman now." And they don't think these things through. And it can happen. It doesn't just have to be teenagers that take all these medications and it fucks them up and they go shooting shit. It can happen to adults too. Because if you're not getting the psychological help you need, which you obviously had before you turned transgender, you should have gotten some help and worked through it, and maybe you wouldn't even have turned trans. But if you were going to be trans, you had some kind of doctor to talk to help you figure this shit out. I mean, most trans people when they're older are happier when they get to transition and get, what they want, um, because they've been supposedly stuck in a different body for so long and all that shit. So they're excited and whatever. But if you already have fucked up mental shit going on with you do not need to be doing hormones and all this other shit. And then he was like a muscular guy, so it was like maybe he was on steroids too. And steroids seems like a big reason to why he could have fucking lost his mind like he did. Like I was never a fan of steroids. Any there was a guy that I was talking to for a little while, and he was like, "I'm going to start taking steroids," and I was like, "Nah, I don't. I'm not really hip for that because you guys get crazy. You end up beating your women. Like I'm not going to be in a Lifetime story with you, bro." So I just hope you're really careful with that shit, and you know what the fuck you're doing because that shit is fucking dangerous. So the last thing I want to read you is a good thing. Um, Weeks after losing 3 family members, this teen channeled his grief to send his hockey team to the state championship. I'm going to read a little bit of it. Between the slick ice and the sharp skates, the chilled hollow of hockey rink is where Colin Drogan had experienced the most devastating and most jubilant moments of his life, all within the span of the month. The high school senior's mother, brother, and grandfather were all killed in mid February when gunfire pierced the clamor of sticks, skates, and cheers during one of his games at the arena in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. His life upended, Dogan took some time to return to the rink, and when his skates hit the ice, the team captain performed like he had missed a moment. The divisional championship this week played out like a movie in double overtime. Dogan scored the winning goal to send his team to the state championship. Retired fighter coach of the Blackstone Valley Co-op hockey team, Chris, I have no idea how to say that name, so whatever, has seen his share of tragedy up close, but nothing in his years on the job could he have braced himself for what he witnessed with Dennis Lynch. This was by far the worst that I've ever been to because I was right there from onset. While his players scrambled off the ice, the former first responder rushed to the stands to treat the wounded, and after shooting returned to the rink. It was not easy transition for anyone. The coach gathered the team for a meeting a couple days after the shooting, encouraged players to take time to think about whether they wanted to continue. I got to thinking after that this was not the way Rhonda Dogan, Aiden Dogan, and Gerald Dogan would ever want it. Collins Collins season to end, and not the way they would have wanted our season to end. About the decision to resume. After circling back with the team and their families a few days later, uh, the other coaches told the team they were going to keep playing. We want you to be a part of this team, standing on the bench or standing in the stands with us. We're going to continue the season. At the same time, he had been meeting with Colin and his sister Ava each day following the shooting. Colin asked about coming back to play for the rest of the season. I said, Colin, if you don't want to come back to the team, I completely understand. I will support your decision, but I want you to know that if you decide not to come back to this team and I allow it to happen, your mom would have kicked my ass. While Dogan grieved, the team spent the time together nearly every single day. The only exceptions were a couple of days when they were snowed in by the massive blizzard that gripped the region. The first 2 days back on the ice were incredibly difficult. Some players were hesitant coming back on and stepping foot on the ice. They had regular workouts at the Top Golf. They had dinners together 15 days straight, and everybody participated in counseling sessions to cope with the tragedy. Um, and then, which less than 2 weeks to prepare, Dogan rejoined the team. They laced their skates for the divisional championship game. They donned on their jerseys emblemized with hearts and stitches from bearing the initials of all three that died. I believe bonding that team, unity, the hockey family mentally came to fruition. They were ready. As the defense scoring was not normally in Dorgan's repertoire, yet he proved that notion wrong right after the night's playoff and the team's quarter match. Dogan netted 2 goals with confidence and carried the Spirit to the semifinals. The score remained 2-2 at the final buzzer. It stayed that way through the overtime period. As the clock ticked to the second overtime, Dogan scored a breakaway, splitting 2 defenders. He came face to face with the opposing team goaltender before slamming the puck into the net, lifting his team to a 3-2 victory. Dogan punched his team's ticket to the state championship. The stadium erupted into cheers, and Dogan's teammates swarmed him after scoring the game with the winning goal. It was the greatest moment of my life, Dogan told WPR TV after the game. Dogan yanked off his helmet and amped it up in the crowd, celebrating the goal with his. I was just so overwhelmed with joy for the team, for Colin's sister, for the whole family, and family, for our hockey family. Um, so that's an amazing story. But what's sad is that I want to go back. His mother brother, grandfather were killed by this piece of shit. And I don't know who took him in. Maybe he had a aunt. I'm even crying a little bit here. I don't know who took care of him. Maybe an aunt, grandmother, um, maybe an older sister or his dad. Yeah, I'm gonna say thank. It's probably his dad, and thank God he wasn't there because he might not have had his dad either. And that is a sick, twisted fucking story, but with a beautiful ending. And um, you know, these people need to fucking really get help. And I think the more we just keep letting this go on, uh, the worse it becomes. I honestly think if you really want to become trans, before you get anything done, I think you should have to take a psychological test. Everybody. If if they're talking about doing it with kids, anything, everybody needs a psychological test. If you're a teenager and you're like, "Oh, I'm trans, whatever," you need to take a psychological test. And you also need to talk to somebody who asks real things like, "What if you change your mind?" and show them videos of trans people who have said they regretted doing this when they were teens and now they can't ever have children ever in their life and they want children and they wish they waited and the doctors don't give a fuck about them and they're just push whatever on you, things like that. They need to be shown those videos. Well, at least the younger kids, like the kids that are like 16, 17, 18, they need to be shown that. And then they need to take psychological tests. Like the psychological test would be different for obviously the 16 through the 18-year-old. And then the 20-year-old and up would be a completely different test. I think they need tests because this is an illness. Let's face it, this is an illness. So they should not just be doing these things for these people and not not making a uh making them do psychological tests to see if they can handle what it is they're about to do. I don't think that's asking too much. You want to be trans? Fine. We want to know your history. We want to know if you've ever been on antidepressants. We want to know if you have anxiety. We want to know why you want to become trans. Who brought this idea on you? Is there anyone forcing you to do this? All kinds of stuff. And then them go through a period of they have to stay themselves for a certain period of time and keep seeing this counselor and say, well, how do you feel today? Did this happen? Did this, and this should be something that is done for a significant period of time. You don't just get to take the test and then move on. No, you have to take a test. You also have to have a 6 month period where you, maybe 6 months to a year, where you stay a man or a woman and you live your life and see how things are going. And if you still feel that way, fine. But you, in the meantime of these tests and things, which would take maybe a year or two of their time, then a doctor will decide, yes, they're mentally stable, capable, and able and willing to handle this. You can then now move on to the next procedure where there's a doctor involved. The other people, they are not ready for this. I don't think this is a good idea to do this. They have psychological problems that are not just the fact that they want to be trans, but they have depression and anxiety, this, that, the other thing. We don't think they're ready for this. So if they're still insistent on being this way, they need to go to counseling 3 to 4 times a week. That's how this should be handled. 100%. 100%. Especially at certain ages. When now, if you're fucking 25, okay, and you decide you want to go through this, I don't know if I agree that they shouldn't. They should get a little questionnaire at least, and with that little questionnaire, it should be read over by a therapist or whoever, or a doctor could have it and then send it to their therapist and say this person's 25, they're well over the age limit to do it. I talked to them, they seem very upbeat, okay, but we want to know what you think about these answers. And if there's a red flag, boom, shit's halted, and then they got to go get some help first. But if not, then they can go through with it. I think that's perfectly fair. I think that's what should be done. 100%. So now I'm going to show you a couple videos of this shooting. And then I want to show you a couple of videos on Jeffree Star and this other trans. I'm going to call her a woman because she does look like a woman. So let's start off with our killer.
So police say this Rhode Island dad showed up to his own son's high school hockey game, killed his son, killed his ex-wife, and shot his in-laws before he killed himself. And he identified as transgender. Police say the shooter was Robert Dorgan, but he went by Roberta because he had transitioned. So back in 2020, he had gender reassignment surgery, according to court documents, goes in, gets that all done. His wife says, I can't take this anymore. I'm filing for divorce. And in the paperwork, she said it was because of his transitioning and also his personality problems. So now Roberta's social media posts are under investigation, and I'll show you why. So just hours before the shooting, Roberta is online posting all these things on X, sticking up for trans Congress member Sarah McBride, telling people to back off. In one post writing this in part, don't be so hurt over somebody different, then wonder why trans people go effing berserk. So more information will come out as they continue to dig in here out in Rhode Island. But one thing the police do know for sure is that this was a targeted shooting.
So there's that.
Mass shooting at a high school hockey game in Rhode Island Monday. The person behind the trigger, transgender killer Rob. We're learning.
First, I want to show you. I want to show you the picture of him, where he is right here. Tell me that he doesn't look like a dude, even though he got gender affirming surgery. I'm going to see if they have a better picture that shows up. Okay.
the victims of the horrific mass shooting at a high school hockey game in Rhode Island Monday. The person behind the trigger, transgender killer Robert Dorgan, murdered his son Aiden and his ex-wife Rhonda and critically injured former in-laws Linda and Gerald Dorgan. A family friend named Thomas Geruso was also critically wounded. And to make matters even worse, all of this violence went down while Robert's other son Colin was just feet away on the ice playing hockey. Now, cops say Dorgan had 2 legally obtained handguns, a Glock 10 and a SIG P226. They say he had frequented games in the past and made no indication that this time was any different, noting he said nothing before opening fire. Dorgan was overpowered by 3 Good Samaritans who were in the stands, but that is when he produced his second weapon and shot himself. A family GoFundMe noted that Colin and his sister Ava are now parentless after the massacre. Now, Colin, a 17-year-old high school senior, is a multi-sport athlete, and his sister...
Okay. That's pretty much. But now that's pretty much the same thing. But now I want you to hear Jeffree Star and this other chick talk.
Gay. I am just open and very mean.
I
So,
love that
yeah.
though. It's like just
I don't
doing
like the term. I mean, there's obviously a lot of gay people out there that like certain things. That's great. LGB is it. Q and T, get off the alphabet, sweetie. You should be in your own category. Okay? Let me break it down for you straight. Lesbian, gay, and bi. Is that not a sexuality?
It's a sexuality, yes.
okay.
Right?
Okay.
What you think your identity is has nothing to do with what you're sexually attracted to. So why is T and Q on LGB? Now what fuck that means. LGB, gay, lesbian, and bi, that is your preference of who you are attracted to and what you like. Your identity issues and who you think you are is so separate. I don't agree that they should be together.
That's
I
interesting.
think it should be its own thing. Is everyone straight here?
Do you think all of that being lumped in together causes a disservice to all of them?
Yeah,
all of
because
them?
because those God, they were like, yes.
Hold on.
I was afraid of being canceled for ever saying that. Why is that it's an opinion.
Well, Michael,
It's
actually,
not negative.
I want you to give your take on this because you have something interesting.
No, I don't know. Well, I don't know if it's something interesting. I just think it's really confusing to people to change the goalposts in the rules month or
That
a year
part. And
or
you're
2 years.
and all y'all are expecting to know all the terms.
Listen, I was terrible in school. I need a fucking.
Okay, so as that, which is okay, and then listen to what she.
People are in a tizzy because Jeffree Star is talking about the trans community again. Let's see what he had to say.
Nowadays, we have grown men with beards wearing dresses going into the women's restroom. When I was younger, any normal person that felt like they were born in the wrong body was trying to be passable, and they were really wanting to live their life as a woman. And if you really think psychologically you were born in the wrong body, the mental illness. But people hear illness and
Hold on, sorry.
whole spiral. So this new age of weirdos and predators trying to pretend they're trans or pretend they're this and harm women and children, that's my issue. So there is this piece of shit named Lily Tino who is pretending to be trans and recently went into the women's restroom at Disneyland.
I mean, and what exactly is he saying wrong there? And the thing is, the only people that Jeffree is talking about.
And this is what she looks like. So she passes for a female, not even though we know she's not.
Jeffrey mentioned the one word that y'all hate. It makes you guys like quiver, clutch your pearls, and it's the word passable. In a way, he's trying to preserve what the trans community was far before this whole influx of weirdos and predators had come into the community and tried to make it their own. So no, there's nothing wrong with what he said.
So, yeah, that was what I wanted to talk about first because it was something I was going to talk about like a little while ago, and then I slacked off on everything, and now I'm back in it, and I'm going to bang out a bunch of episodes on a bunch of different stuff, and I'm going to cover just about everything I can until I have a whole entire new set. So this was my first one. So now I highlighted it, but now I can officially cross this out in the text. So now I just have to decide what my next one is going to be, and whichever videos pop up first are the first videos that I am going to do. I thought I didn't do voter ID, but it looks to me that I have. So the next things that are coming up are Gavin Newsom, Jasmine Crockett, Kristi Noem, AOC, Harvey Weinstein. I am going to talk about Alex Preddy. And the ICE school protest. And then I have a religion episode, part 2, I want to get into. Spencer Pratt, I want to get into. Nicki Minaj, I want to get into. And Candace Owens and some of her old videos I want to get into. Because I haven't seen too much about her lately online. Because I guess people are getting bored with her bullshit. So that is going to be it for tonight. And we are going to be back later with another episode. So, like I said, I'm going to do another episode tonight because I'm pre-recording to bang out as many episodes as I can so I can start on some even newer shit. So, let's get it popping, and hopefully I can get some other people on my podcast with me. I did ask this other guy, and he did say he was down to do it, so we'll see. Whatever. So I want you guys to have a wonderful night. I'm posting this video right now after it downloads, and we're gonna get it done. So peace out, and I hope you enjoyed it. Oh, and real quick, I've been starting to forget to do this. But if you have any questions, and hold on, I'm looking for it right now. Where is it? Oh, you have any questions, or you want to be a part of the show, or whatever, send me an email on this email and I will get back to you. If you have a different opinion, please let me know. I'm down for different opinions on my show. If you have the same opinion, I'm down for that too. If you have a question you want me to answer, I'm down for that too. If you want to be a co-host on the show for one night or maybe forever, hey, we'll talk and, do our thing. So I'd like to get multiple people on the show and have people bounce around every other day, have different people on the show until we get like real equipment and we can tape everything and it would be cool. So have a good night, y'all.